Well, I think I've finally calmed down after watching that display from England today. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is The Steakbake and today we're going to be discussing England's performance against Denmark at Euro 2024. It wasn't the best performance from England. I certainly got very irate. England did draw the game 1-1 and it does leave us in first place in the group as well, in a prime position to qualify with only one game left. In fact, I'm pretty sure that we've almost certainly qualified as a best place third place at this point. However, the response to this game has been dreadful. England fans are not happy. I've seen calls for Gareth Southgate to be sacked mid-tournament. I've seen calls for Harry Kane, England's all-time top goal scorer, to never play for England again. Obviously, those are the very extreme views, but there's a lot of bad response to what happened on the pitch today, and I am certainly not happy with what I saw as well. So let's get into what happened, and let's try and analyse this and work out why England did not perform today, what went wrong, who's to blame really, and then what they can do to change it. I don't want to be someone that just sits here and gives negative opinions. I want to be someone here who provides constructive criticism and suggests some sort of solution to the problems that we have been seeing. So let's go and sort out this England squad. Into the pretty Euro screen, and yes, England were very poor today. In fact, I've already recorded this video once already. This is what it looked like, or rather, this is what it sounded like. No, I have no idea what he's saying either. Yes, I'm in a fit of rage. I came on to here to discuss how badly England were, and I forgot to change the source of my microphone to the right one, so it recorded absolutely nothing from this microphone, which is fantastic. Just checking it's recording now. Yep, it is. The bar's going up and down. We're good, don't worry. However, that was a couple of hours of footage lost, which is a bit of a shame. However, it has given me a little bit more time to calm down, to come to terms with what happened to England, and also to hear some of the thoughts from Gareth Southgate, which actually changed my opinion on a couple of things that I've been talking about, and not necessarily a good change either. I think it's made it worse, if anything. The headline here is that England are on 4 points and are top of the group. However, that doesn't really tell the full story of this performance. It was certainly one which didn't look particularly good on the pitch. A lot of failed passes, a lot of no support for runs, a lot of runs not happening, very deep from England. And it didn't help with things like the pitch was cutting up really well, which meant that people couldn't really turn and commit themselves to passes, and slide tackles were going in a bit overly exaggerated. And the whole game just felt straight away from kickoff that it wasn't really going to go England's way for the full 90 minutes, especially in the first 5 minutes. It would just seem like England gave the ball away 4 or 5 times, and then Denmark did the exact same, giving it straight back. However, it was a rather nice piece of play from Kyle Walker to run in where he looked like a lost cause ball that Christiansen was just going to pass back to the goalkeeper. Kyle Walker was just faster, saw him sleeping, stole the ball off him, and England took the advantage with a 1-0 lead after the ball kind of deflected off a few people and Harry Kane tapped it in. It was the kind of thing I wanted to see from England, a sudden press forward, a thought process where you think, we might win the ball here. Here's a chance for us to win the ball really high, get the ball into the penalty area and create an opportunity. Something we didn't see for the rest of the game. And I think that's why people are so disillusioned with a lot of the things that England do. It's because we know we can do it. We know that we can do the things that we want to see on the pitch. We know that we can cause players to create great things. We know that we can put the ball in the back of the net. We know that we can defend well. We know that we can pass well. We know that we can press, and we just don't seem to do any of it in these tournament games. That being said, I think that's the plan. I think Gareth's plan in particular is to go into every group stage game and not lose them, which is a very negative approach to football. If your only objective is to not lose and then get wins and stuff based on the fact that you've not lost the game, I think that's very negative, especially when you're a team that is up there with being the favourites to win the tournament. And you can tell that's England's strategy because of the way they play. They play a lot of short, backwards passes. They play very safe, very lack of risk when England play, and that implies to me someone that just doesn't want to lose the game and is okay with taking a point from any approach. We saw it in the 2021 Euros when England won the first game really, really well against Croatia. It was a really tight game for the second half. England had to kind of really hold on to their win and grind for it, which was good to see. But then in the second game against Scotland, we just went, we don't want to lose this game. We do not want to lose this game. It would be a disaster for the country if we lost this game. Do not lose this game. And as a result, we ended up drawing 0-0 against a side that England really, really should be beating by a couple of goals. No disrespect to Scotland. Scotland always raise their game against England. They always look like a team that can cause England a lot of problems, but individually, player for player, England is a much, much better side and should be dispatching teams like Scotland. As I say, no offence to the Scottish. The Scottish fans have been absolutely fantastic these Euros. I've absolutely loved having them there, and I really hope they grab that third place best finish, or even grab second place in their group, which is certainly within range now if they beat Hungary on the last game. Come on, Scotland. But the essence of that 0-0 back in 2021 was really present today. And I felt like Denmark are a slightly better team than Scotland, and it showed that England were trying to hold on for just not losing, and they ended up nearly letting it slip today. With the attitude of not lose, it means that everyone's back, everyone's deep, and one of the most frustrating aspects of a really defensive system is the lack of pressing. It's not what I want to see, an England team with so much talent in, so much pace, so much youth. I want to see the team pressing as high as they possibly can, trying to win the ball back and trying to create chances, pressing the other team back as well, because the more you press them, the less high they can get, and that obviously allows you to dominate a game much more easily. It diminishes the number of chances you concede and also could cause errors down the other end as well for you to get your own set of chances. So seeing England not press is really painful to watch, and I think that's something that a lot of England fans will be wanting Gareth Southgate to change. Now, in my previous recording of the one that lost the sound, I went on to say that Gareth Southgate is deliberately sitting back in order to not lose. However, having heard what Gareth Southgate said after the game, where he was directly asked the question, do you tell your team to stay back and sit back when you go 1-0 up? And he directly answered that question and says, no, and I would like to see them press more.
In both games now, England have scored and then dropped deeper and not appeared to press as much. Is that what you're telling the team to do?
No. I think we've played teams that are quite fluid in back threes, and it's not easy to get pressure on them, but we've definitely got to do that better than we have done in these two matches.
That then begins to question a lot more than just the system. That, to me, is a really big worry. He then went on to say something ludicrous, like he wished he had a Calvin Phillips in the team or something, which is the headline. A lot of people are focusing on that, but I think it's the point before that that really sends alarm bells ringing in my head, that the England manager is telling England to play a certain way, and the England players aren't doing it, and that's a real issue. There's some communication error going on there. I don't know if the players think they know better than Gareth Southgate, or whether the players are kind of taking it upon themselves to drop off. That seems really strange to me. However, if you look at the average position map of England before and after they scored their goal, you'll see that John Stones in particular drops so far deep. He goes from being almost the whole defensive line up towards the midfield, up towards the halfway line, to the whole defensive line drops 10, 15 yards. But then John Stones, he's almost with Pickford. He's almost in line with Pickford. He's so far deep in that image that was showed on the BBC today, and that can only drag England further back. Now, I'm not saying it's John Stones' fault in particular. I'm just saying that's a particular statistical anomaly that made me a little bit hyper aware of the fact that England are dropping back more than they should be. And then the fact that Gareth Southgate said that's not how he wants to play, I don't know, more alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells. My main problem with Gareth Southgate's system, and I think probably the reason why England are forced to drop off more when they are in possession, is that we do not have an out ball when playing out from the back. And that is a disaster. If you don't have that when playing out from the back, you're going to get caught. You're going to get pressed by good teams. Teams will press you into a corner. Teams will win the ball back. You'll lose the ball and you'll lose goals. That's just an inevitable fact of a system that doesn't have an out ball. And England have one in theory, which is Bukayo Saka. He's someone that's quite happy to run at the defence and run over the top. And that was why Trent is in the team, to give the ball to Trent, boot the ball over the top to Saka, create chances that way. but it didn't work today at all. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Trent is a bit of not a scapegoat. Trent's focused on a lot of the media response, and a lot of the Twitter response to this situation has been Trent focused. Trent, Foden, that kind of level of focus. Those are the two players who are getting the most flack, I would suggest. And obviously Trent being trialled in midfield doesn't help his cause. However, I can see why he is put there. I can see why he is playing alongside Declan Rice. It's to pick the ball up with no one around him, get some space if you can, especially when England have possession and are pushing up towards the halfway line. Get the ball, give the ball to Trent, and play that out ball over the top, the long switch of play, or the ball over the top towards Saka. Either way, or even ping it in towards Kane, and then allow the two central attacking midfielders in Foden and Bellingham to go in behind or come short and receive the ball. That's what Trent is for. Trent is there to pick passes. He is England's best passer, and therefore that's why he is in the team. However, the system is failing Trent Alexander-Arnold in this particular situation. Certainly today. Against Serbia, I thought Trent was just poor. I thought he had the opportunity to be the Trent that we know and love and play those balls over the top. I thought he had chances to do that. In this game, I didn't see the chance because there was nobody offering that ball. Harry Kane is running towards Trent to try and receive the ball. Foden seemed to have picked up on Rio Ferdinand's comments that he needs to argue and call for the ball all the time, and was doing the same thing, running towards him all the time. And it's just pinning England back more and more and more. And I think that's why we're ending up dropping deep, especially when we're 1-0 down. And that kind of safety feature that we seem to have of our team, where when we're 1-0 up, we just kind of play the easier pass and we slow the game down. That, I think, is a tactic from Gareth Southgate. It's the dropping back that isn't, and the dropping back is natural because we don't have that out ball. So we're constantly being like, oh, I don't have anyone to pass to forwards. I'm going to have to go backwards. I don't have anyone to pass to forwards. I'm going to have to go back to Pickford. And then Pickford's just like, oh, I'm going to boot it because I'm being closed down and I don't have any options either. It's the lack of passing options in this system that's a real problem. It's squashing Trent's ability to be in this team. It's squashing a lot of players' ability to be in this team. And I think it's a real problem for England. Another problem with the out ball not being there is also the left side is really exposed when it comes to being pressed themselves. And I'll explain that a little bit from Trippier's perspective. So Trippier will receive the ball quite a lot with his back to the touchline and to the dugouts. So he is facing into the pitch, basically. And quite a lot of the time he'll receive the ball and there'll be a player running at his face, pressuring him. So Trippier is receiving the ball with his back to the touchline. And every single time in that situation, you can either go left down the line on his left foot, or you can go right back to Mark Guay on the right foot, or into Declan Rice if Rice has dropped deep enough. Every single time, because of the way the system is done, because of Phil Foden cutting in and not sticking to the line, and because of the fact that Trippier is a right-footed player playing on the left, he is using his right foot to play it to Mark Guay every single time. And that forces England back into the corner. So Trippier gets the ball from Guay. He then has the option of Foden maybe down the line, but probably not. And then Rice and Guay, and he has to pass back to them. So England get into this little passing rhythm, passing it between the left back, the left centre-back, and the left defensive midfielder. They pass it between themselves, and as they are pressed, they get closer and closer to England's corner, closer and closer, and then eventually they either have to boot the ball over the top, switch the play, or make a mistake. And today there was more mistakes. A lot of that was due to Declan Rice not really having a particularly good game for England. Part of that was the pitch. I think it hindered Rice more than it hindered anyone else, because Rice's game is very much receiving the ball, turning quickly and using it to progress the ball, or laying it off back to the centre-backs. And he didn't really have the option of turning today because he was slipping and sliding around on the pitch, which was cutting up. Obviously, if you have a pitch which is cutting up, it affects the players that turn more. So Saka jinking and cutting in from the wing is more affected than John Stones, for example. And I think Rice's game was really hindered by that today. I'm not making excuses for him because I think he genuinely just had a really bad day as well. Like his passing just seemed off, even when he was passing backwards. His tackling wasn't quite there. He committed a few silly fouls that I didn't think I'd see him commit very often. I don't know if he was just playing it too safe and ended up looking a little bit silly. or whether he just had an off day. But overall, one of the worst performances I've seen Rice have on a football pitch, let alone in an England shirt. I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad game before. So it's really disappointing from Declan Rice. And I have to say, it was maybe only 10% the pitch's fault. 90% of it was his fault. So with England getting caught back in their left-back position, it's really screaming out for someone to be supporting down that line and someone to be left-footed at left-back. Unfortunately, that's not an issue we can solve easily until Luke Shaw comes back, and I'm not even sure Luke Shaw will be back at any point in this tournament. It's a little bit worrying that he's not even being included in the squad so far. I'd like to see him at least being able to warm up around the pitch. How injured is he? I'm very worried that we're going to have Trippier later into the tournament, later and later and later, and the longer we have him there, the more problems teams are going to cause us. The easier it is to pin England back inside their own left-back area, into the left side of that penalty area, the easier it is to win the ball off of England, the more mistakes we're going to make and the more goals we're going to concede. And it's very simple. If the left-footed player can get the ball onto his left foot and play it down the line, that is a safer option than going back under pressure, because the ball is further away from your goal. It's a fairly simple logic there, that if you can boot the ball down the line, that's better than playing a risky pass back to Mark Guehi, for example. And there was a couple of times during this game where Trippier and Rice put Guehi under pressure with a quick, hard pass to his feet when he was already being closed down, and that's when England started to make their mistakes. Guehi actually recovered pretty well from most of those and ended up being probably my man of the match if I had to pick one, but I'm going to be honest, not a single one of those England players is coming out from that and saying, you know what, I played really well today. And I thought that the full squad didn't quite hit their level. And that happens sometimes in football, whether it's the conditions, whether it's your mental attitude, whether it's how you're feeling, whether it's what food you had, you know, all of those things can add up. And sometimes a lot of your team have a bad day at the same time. I just felt like today it was the whole team, and that can't happen again in this tournament. That has to be the game that we go, right, we have to do better than that. We have to play better than that. We have to turn this around against Slovenia. We certainly don't have a chance of going deeper into this tournament if we don't better today's performance. So we've got the excuses of the pitch and having no left back out of the way. Let's talk about the positions where it really went wrong today. And one of those in particular was Harry Kane and England's press. So England didn't really press, and Gareth Southgate actually came out after the game and said we didn't press enough, we should have pressed more. If we're told to press but we're not pressing, that's a tactical issue or a communication issue between the manager and the players need to know how to press. And Gary Lineker was right to point out that Harry Kane isn't a hard pressing forward. He doesn't go sprinting after the goalkeeper when the ball goes back towards the goalkeeper. He doesn't charge down the centre-backs as hard as he possibly can for the full 90 minutes. And I think he's dead right there. What I would say is Harry Kane can do a slightly lighter press where he assists the team in bunching up and pressing forward. Harry Kane's quite happy to jog between the centre-backs and make sure that they have fewer passing options, which I think is really useful in a team press. Ideally, you want your press to come from your striker predominantly. You want a hard pressing striker to run at defences. Harry Kane isn't that man, and either England sacrifice Harry Kane, their all-time top goal scorer, their biggest goal threat, their best penalty taker, all of that kind of thing. Either they sacrifice him or they change their system to allow for pressing with him in a different role. And I think the way you solve that is you make Jude Bellingham the hard presser. He's 20, he's tall, he's fit, he knows what he's doing, he's very intelligent with the game. He needs to be the one charging down the goalkeeper, charging down those centre-backs. He's done it a couple of times today. In particular, there was one moment where he charged down the goalkeeper panicked, passed it short. Declan Rice then charged forward to assist with the press, won the ball back high, and England had an opportunity. And I think that's what we need Jude Bellingham doing. Jude Bellingham needs to do the hard press, and then Harry Kane slots into that number 10 role and does an assistive press with the rest of the attack. Phil Foden, we've already pointed out, as a player that runs almost more than, I think he was the second most runner in the whole of the first selection of games in the Euros out of any team. Really impressive from Phil Foden. If he's doing that kind of running, it's not really what Phil Foden's there for. However, That's great. If he's going to do that kind of running, he's already pressing. He's already doing that press and work. Saka needs to do the same, and then you have Bellingham doing the hard press, and those three behind following them around and cutting off those passing options as the defence pass it between themselves. Then you need a holding midfielder to see where the danger ball is, and that's when the pass manages to get through the press and into the centre. And then you need Declan Rice on his game, reading that and charging into that gap and making the tackle or the interception. And that is how England will win that ball high. And I think that's the best way that England can do something with a press. I think it's to have Jude Bellingham move forward, Harry Kane drop back a little bit, and then press like that. Having said that, I don't want them to change roles. I don't want Harry Kane to become the number 10 and Jude Bellingham to become the striker. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is out of possession, that's how the pressing would work. Then in possession, when we're building up from the back or when we win the ball back, Harry Kane then reassumes his position at the top of the field. Jude Bellingham drops in behind to provide that number 10 role. And then the other two players are allowed to cut inside and help England with their attack and try and get goals. So it's not a positional change. It's just in the press. When we're pressing and out of possession, I want Jude faster and charging down more than Harry Kane. Secondly, I've mentioned the out ball. That's something England really need to work on, because at the moment that out pass is a ball over the top to Saka, and that is about it because Harry Kane is so deep. Being deep should allow for Phil Foden to continue going beyond him and to really hug that far left touchline, but that's not really Phil Foden's game. And when he does get the ball out there, all he can really do is lay it off back to Trippier. In that situation, Rice needs to support him, Bellingham needs to support him, and Kane needs to support him so that he can play quick balls through, charge through the positions, and then get the ball into the box. So that out ball needs to be more than just Bukayo Saka. Phil Foden needs to offer that ball as well. And when England are under pressure, Harry Kane needs to offer that option as well. And I don't mean come short and ask for the ball. That's not really helpful to England. If anything, that's what's bunching us up at the back. I think it's a really big problem of everyone showing, everyone dropping deep, everyone asking for a short pass. That just congests you in front of your own penalty area. You're going to lose the ball. You're going to lose chances. Harry Kane needs to stand on the last defender. And he does that for Bayern Munich. I don't understand this kind of attitude of Harry Kane can't be the last guy in a team. Harry Kane can't be a target forward. Harry Kane can't do that. He does it for Bayern Munich all the time. He picks the ball up quite high and then he plays the ball in behind to Sane or to someone else, or Musiala or someone like that for Bayern Munich. He can do it. So having Harry Kane press onto that last defender, even if all he's doing is pushing his back into him, which is exactly what he did against Serbia, pushed his back into the last defender, let him take the ball on his chest, bring the ball down, and then lays it off to a centre mid, or wins a foul and England can then go forward. I don't mind Harry Kane doing that, but Harry Kane can definitely do that target forward role, and he needs to do it more. There was far too many times where Trent Alexander-Arnold or Declan Rice or Kyle Walker had picked the ball up, and the closest player to him was Harry Kane, and you're just like, Kane, why are you here? Why are you touching our penalty area right now? That's not where we want you. And this is an issue that we've had for England for quite some time. Harry Kane wants to be the main man for England, and if he wants to be the main man for England for a long term, he has to revert his game to being on the last defender. He can't just be this deep lying playmaking forward all the time, especially when England have the ball. I kind of get it when we don't have the ball. When we don't have the ball, Harry Kane drops a little bit so that the press is a little bit deeper. There's where I need Jude Bellingham doing the press ahead of him so that Harry Kane can drop into that gap and pick up the ball and shield the ball off when loose balls come through. That's fine. But when England have the ball, I don't want Harry Kane facing our own goal, charging towards the player who has the ball. That is not helpful. It's hindering the team and it's stopping us having an out ball, and that's our major problem. Later on in the game, when Watkins came on, he was quite happy to run in behind, and that gave us a direct out ball. We saw it from Jude Bellingham pick the ball up in the midfield and instantly played a really nice cutting through ball through the middle for Watkins to get his shot away on goal. Great to see. Straight away, Watkins is there making a difference, proving why he should probably be playing for England a little bit more than he is. And he certainly offers that extra option as that out pass. Another way you look at England getting back is using a little bit of pace. And England don't have loads of pace in their team. They have a decent amount from Kyle Walker. But the next fastest player is probably someone like Gordon coming off the bench. And I think he could be a real option for England. England and France have set up very similarly so far, in that they've set up to absorb the pressure, sit quite deep, and then counter-attack or create attacks from a defensive position. And I actually thought the French were really, really poor. However, they demonstrated exactly how important having an outball is by having Mbappe being on the last line of defence. Whenever France won the ball back from Austria, who were doing really well to press them deep into the penalty area, winning corners, winning free kicks, getting the ball into the box, pinning France right back. They did a really good job at doing that. But as soon as France had the ball, Mbappe was an option over the top. Kolo Muani was an option over the top. Dembele was an option over the top. Fast, quick players, which as soon as you get it over the halfway line, they're going to beat that defender to the ball. And then they're creating chances. And even if they don't create a chance, that's pinning back the whole defence. The defence has to stay back and mark Mbappe because they know that one ball and it's over for them. They know they have to do that. And England only really have Saka doing that at the moment, which means it's only one pass. It only means that one player has to stay back for whatever team we're playing. Let's say Denmark for today. Only one player needed to really mark Saka. Everyone else was back in the final third, defending. So with not having the outball, you end up really limiting yourself and holding yourself in your own box. And France do that really well of turning their absorbing tactic into a counter-attacking tactic. And England don't have that down yet. We're not countering. We're absorbing, getting the ball back, and then passing the ball around the back. It's just negative. It's not going to win you games. It might frustrate the opposition. It might tire them out. But if your tactic for every game in this Euros is tire the opposition out, we're not going to get very far, are we? Because teams are going to eventually break down this defence, eventually press you high enough to make a mistake, and we will go out. And that's why I think having someone like Anthony Gordon on the left provides that option. And then you can keep Trent Alexander-Arnold in the squad because his long balls over the top suddenly have meaning to them. He gets the ball when we're turning over possession, picks out that ball over the top, or picks out the ball over to the right to Bukayo Saka, both of which are perfectly good outballs, and then he can make a difference into the game as well, and the game has allowed Trent into it, basically. All the time that Trent is not allowed to play those balls, so all the time that it is not Gordon on the wing, all the time that it's Foden, all the time that it's Harry Kane coming deep, Trent shouldn't be in the team. Trent should not be in the team, not in that position anyway. I don't mind him at right back. I don't think he's defensively awful, as people say. Certainly over the course of this season for Liverpool, he's been much better. I would rather have Walker there, of course. But if Trent is your answer in midfield, you have to have the outball. And if you don't have the outball, don't have Trent because it's pointless. Have Gallagher, have someone who's going to hustle Harry around the midfield, throw a cat amongst the pigeons, as they say, get involved, get his foot stuck in, try and win the ball back. Get someone like that in the team, and that is much better for England. And we're winning the ball much higher because of that. Even if Gallagher's just giving you a little push in the back and it's allowing John Stones to step out and make the tackle, it's just that little bit extra pressure, a little bit extra defensive and midfield know-how that Trent Alexander probably doesn't have. And I think that's a real asset for England if they can do it in that way. So, to recap, if the system remains the same, Trent should not be in the team. It should be Gallagher. If you allow the system to have more outballs by having Gordon going forward or Kane pressed onto the last defender, Saka making more runs, and Foden filling more into the middle rather than out wide on the wing, then have Trent in the team because he can play the ball over the top. You don't need to change the tactic quite as much. I think it could work in that situation. And another thing is we need a left-footed left-back. It's an absolute disaster that we don't have one in reserve. We should have called up Tyreek Mitchell. We didn't. We're now left with poor old Trippier, who, to be fair, is doing a very good job defensively. However, going forward, Trippier is becoming a hindrance because it's very easy to kind of funnel England into a small trap, get the ball back off them when they cut out those passing options. That's just the thing that England are missing at the moment, and I think it's going to be until the knockout stages that we are missing that. But that's my overall take home from England. There's how I would improve it anyway. Right, that is going to be the end of this video. A little bit more ranty. I do apologise for that. I don't like to be too negative. I'm always someone that tries to find the positives in things, but it was just very hard to do so in this particular England performance. Let me hear your comments down in the comments below, or tweet me them as well. My social media stuff is down there and probably on the screen as we speak, so go and follow me on those things. And while you're down there, leave a like and a subscription on the video. I would much appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Come on, England. And remember, be kind to one another. See you later.